The Galactic Council chamber was enormous, a grand hall of metal and light. Thousands of alien representatives sat in floating seats, arranged in a vast circle around a central platform. The air was filled with quiet murmurs in different languages as they waited for the meeting to begin. At the center of the chamber, a tall, blue-skinned alien with 4 arms and golden robes stepped forward. His name was Chalvik, the High Speaker of the Galactic Council. He raised a hand, and the murmurs faded. "The matter of Earth is now open for discussion," Chalvik announced, his deep voice echoing through the hall. His black eyes scanned the gathered leaders. Humanity has reached the stars, but their history is filled with war, destruction, and chaos. They are unpredictable and dangerous. We must decide how to handle this threat before it is too late. A reptilian alien named Jorvax, with dark green scales and sharp teeth, leaned forward. "They are clever, but reckless," he hissed. "In only a few centuries, they have developed weapons strong enough to destroy entire planets. If we allow them to expand into space, they will become a problem for all of us." An avian alien named Varish, covered in silver feathers, nodded. "They have no discipline. They fight among themselves constantly. They refuse to follow a single leader. How can such a species be trusted?" Murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. The Council had been watching Earth for many years, observing its wars, its advancements, and its growing ambition. The humans had survived against all odds, rebuilding after disasters and conflicts. Some found it impressive, others found it terrifying. A small gray-skinned alien named Tivon raised his voice. "But they are also intelligent and resourceful. They have solved problems that even older species struggle with. Perhaps." "No," Chalvik interrupted, his tone firm. "We cannot take that risk. We have made this mistake before, allowing a young species to grow unchecked. They became a danger, and we were forced to destroy them. We will not make that mistake again." Jorvax slammed his clawed fist against the table. "Then let us do what must be done. We wipe them out now before they have a chance to." "No," Chalvik said again, shaking his head. "A full extermination is unnecessary, but we must ensure that Earth remains trapped." The Council members exchanged glances. This had been discussed before. Many had hoped that humans would limit themselves, that they would focus on their own world and never reach beyond their solar system. But humans had proven to be too curious, too ambitious. "We will place strict sanctions upon them," Chalvik continued. "No trade, no advanced technology, no travel beyond their system. If they try to leave, they will be blocked. If they resist, we will respond with force." Varish tilted her head. "And if they disobey?" Chalvik's golden robes shimmered under the bright lights. "Then we remind them why they must obey." There was a long silence. Then, one by one, the Council members nodded in agreement. The decision was made. Far away, on a blue and green planet orbiting a bright yellow star, humanity continued its struggle. They did not yet know that their fate had been sealed by those who ruled the stars. But they would find out soon enough. For years, humanity lived under the shadow of the Galactic Council's decree. The announcement had come through a simple transmission, spoken in a cold, artificial voice. "Earth is now under restricted status. No contact, no trade, no space travel beyond the solar system. Any violation will be met with force." The message repeated in hundreds of languages before cutting off. And just like that, the doors to the galaxy were slammed shut. At first, there was confusion. Then came the anger. Humanity had worked for centuries to reach the stars. They had built massive space stations, powerful ships, and advanced technology. They had dreamed of joining the great civilizations of the galaxy. But now, they were treated like criminals, locked inside their own system, like a prison. Governments held emergency meetings. Scientists demanded answers. Military leaders studied the alien fleets patrolling the edge of the solar system. But there was nothing they could do, at least not yet. The Council thought humanity would surrender, that they would accept their fate. But humans had never been good at following rules. The hidden war begins. At first, Earth pretended to obey. They stopped launching deep space missions. They followed the restrictions. They sent no signals beyond the system. The Council watched carefully, believing humanity had been tamed. They were wrong. In the underground bunkers of Mars, on the hidden bases of the Moon, and in the deep waters of Earth's oceans, the real work began. A secret alliance formed. Scientists, engineers, military strategists, and even rogue corporations. The goal was simple: find a way to fight back. On a secure base beneath the icy surface of Europa, a group of scientists studied an old alien wreck. It had crashed on Earth decades ago, its technology barely understood. But now, with no outside help, humanity was forced to learn. Dr. Helen Royce, a leading scientist in quantum mechanics, stared at the strange metal plating of the alien ship. "If we can figure out how they travel faster than light," she said to her team, "we won't need their permission to leave." The factories in the shadows. On Earth, hidden deep in the Amazon rainforest, an underground facility hummed with life. Engineers worked tirelessly, designing new weapons and ships based on every scrap of alien technology they had ever encountered. A man named General Markov, a veteran of Earth's last great war, oversaw the project. He had gray hair, sharp eyes, and a deep hatred for the Council. "They think they can keep us in a cage," he said, watching a prototype warship take shape. "They forgot one thing. We build better cages for ourselves. And then we break out." Using advanced experimental railguns and newly discovered energy shielding, humanity's first true warships began to take form. They were not as sleek as the alien crafts. They were not as advanced. But they were built for war. The Ghost Fleet. On the dark side of the Moon, a fleet of stealth ships was being constructed. Built with radar-absorbing material, advanced cloaking devices, and experimental jump drives, these ships were designed for one purpose: strike before the enemy knows they are there. Commander Elias, leader of the Ghost Fleet, stood on the bridge of the first completed vessel, Horizon 1. He watched as the stars glittered outside the ship's reinforced windows. He clenched his fists. "They think we're weak," he muttered. "Let's prove them wrong." The Watchers at the edge. Meanwhile, at the edge of the solar system, the alien patrol fleets watched Earth with cold calculation. An alien officer named Havrik, part of the monitoring team, observed a human cargo vessel moving between Mars and Earth. He narrowed his 4 yellow eyes. "Strange," he murmured. "Their technology should not be improving this fast." The Galactic Council had assumed that, without external resources, humanity would slow down. But instead, their progress seemed to be accelerating. Tavrik reported his findings, but his superiors dismissed him. "Humans are impatient," they said. "Let them build their toys. It will not change anything." Tavrik was not so sure. The countdown to war. Back on Earth, inside a hidden command center deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, world leaders gathered in secret. A large screen displayed the Council's fleet, still hovering at the solar system's borders, watching, waiting. General Markov placed a small device on the table. It was a prototype quantum drive, reverse-engineered from stolen alien technology. "This will change everything," he said. The leaders leaned in, eyes filled with determination. "If it works," one of them whispered, "we won't just escape the cage." Markov nodded. "No, we'll break it." The countdown to humanity's revenge had begun. The Galactic Council still believed humanity was under control. Their warships remained stationed at the edge of the solar system, watching for any sign of rebellion. But as far as they could see, Earth was quiet. No human fleets had been built. No colonies had expanded beyond Mars. No signals had been sent to other species. To the Council, this meant the sanctions were working. They had no idea what was happening beneath the surface. A desperate gamble. On a cold, silent night, in a secret base hidden deep in the Sahara Desert, A small group of human commanders stood around a holographic map. The meeting was tense. "This is our chance," General Markov said, pointing to a trade route outside the solar system. An unmanned cargo vessel carrying refined tritium. "If we can capture it, we'll have the fuel needed to test the quantum drive." The others in the room exchanged nervous glances. Tritium was one of the most valuable resources in the galaxy, used in advanced energy weapons and faster-than-light engines. Earth had none of it. If they wanted to build powerful warships, they needed tritium, and they needed a lot of it. But stealing it from the Council would be dangerous. "They'll know it was us," said Commander Elias, leader of the Ghost Fleet. "If we fail, they'll tighten the blockade, maybe even attack Earth directly." Markov nodded. "That's why failure is not an option." The room fell silent. Then, one by one, the commanders nodded. The mission was risky, but they had no choice. They had to act. The ambush. The plan was simple. A small team of elite pilots would take a stealth ship beyond the blockade, disable the cargo vessel, and bring it back before the Council noticed. But things did not go as planned. As the human ship, Nightshade, approached the trade route, they saw something unexpected. An alien patrol ship escorting the cargo vessel. Inside the Nightshade, pilot Jonas Briggs clenched his jaw. "We have a problem," he muttered. Commander Elias's voice came through the comms. "Stick to the plan. Take out the escort, grab the cargo, and get out." The crew moved quickly. Using their new prototype railguns, they fired a single, silent shot at the alien patrol ship. The projectile moved at incredible speed, slicing through the enemy ship before it could react. The alien vessel exploded into bright blue fire, its wreckage drifting into space. For a moment, everything seemed to be going well. The cargo ship was now unguarded. The Nightshade moved in to hijack it. Then the alarms went off. They sent a distress signal. Briggs shouted. Commander Elias cursed. The Council's nearest fleet would be arriving within minutes. "Get the cargo and move," he ordered. The human crew worked fast, transferring the tritium containers onto the Nightshade. The mission was nearly complete, but before they could leave, a massive alien battleship appeared on their sensors. "They're here," Briggs said, his voice tight with fear. "The price of freedom." The alien battleship opened fire immediately, launching bright energy blasts toward the human ship. The Nightshade's pilot dodged as best as he could, but the ship wasn't made for battle. Inside the command center on Earth, General Markov watched the live feed. His hands tightened into fists. "They won't make it out," he whispered. Elias's voice came through the radio. "We can't outrun them," he said. His voice was calm, but everyone could hear the truth in his words. They weren't going to survive. There was only one option left. "We'll cover you," Elias said. "Take the tritium and get back to Earth." Briggs's voice was filled with shock. "But that's an order." The Nightshade hesitated for a moment, then turned and jumped into hyperspace, carrying the stolen tritium back home. Elias and his crew stayed behind, facing the enemy alone. The alien battleship surrounded them, its weapons powered up. Elias took a deep breath and whispered, "For Earth." Then the human ship charged forward, weapons firing at full power. The explosion that followed was seen across multiple star systems. Earth had made its first real attack on the Galactic Council, and it had come at a heavy cost. The Council's wrath. When news of the ambush reached the Council, chaos erupted. Chalvik, the High Speaker, slammed his fist against the table. "How is this possible?" he roared. "The humans are supposed to be contained." The Council members murmured in disbelief. Humanity wasn't just surviving under the sanctions. They were fighting back. And worse, they had somehow acquired advanced weapons. They must have allies. Jorvax hissed, his reptilian eyes narrowing. "Someone is supplying them with technology." Varys shook her head. "Or they're building it themselves." The room fell silent. That idea was terrifying. If humans had reached this level of power without help, then the sanctions had failed. They need to be taught a lesson, Chalvik growled. We will show them what happens to those who defy us. The first strike against Earth. A fleet of 20 Galactic Council warships entered the solar system. They moved with purpose, their weapons charged and ready. They had one goal: punish Earth for its defiance. Earth's defense systems detected the incoming ships. Sirens blared in underground bunkers. Military leaders scrambled to their posts. The people of Earth looked to the sky and saw their doom approaching. But General Markov stood firm. He turned to his officers. "It's time," he said. "Activate the Ghost Fleet." Far above Earth, hidden in the darkness of space, human warships powered up their weapons. The battle for Earth had begun. The Galactic Council's fleet moved toward Earth like a storm. 20 warships, armed with energy cannons and powerful shields, prepared to punish humanity for its defiance. From the massive viewing window of his flagship, High Commander Vartok observed the blue planet. His dark eyes narrowed as he spoke to his officers. "Humanity must learn its place," he said coldly. "They think they can challenge the Council. We will break that illusion." His second-in-command, a pale-skinned alien named Zalcor, nodded. "Their defenses are weak. Their fleet is non-existent. This will be over quickly." Vartok smirked. "Good. I want their leaders begging for mercy by the end of the day." But unknown to them, Earth had prepared for this moment. And Earth did not beg. The Ghost Fleet awakens. High above the planet, hidden within the darkness of space, human warships powered up. They had been waiting. Unlike the sleek and polished ships of the Council, Earth's warships were built for war. Their thick armor could withstand heavy attacks. Their railguns could tear through metal. Their stealth technology allowed them to remain invisible until the perfect moment. The Council believed Earth had no fleet. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Inside the command center of the flagship Iron Fist, General Markov watched the enemy fleet approach. His face was calm, but his hands clenched behind his back. "This is it," he said. "No turning back now." Commander Elias's voice came through the comms. "Ghost Fleet is in position, awaiting your orders." Markov took a deep breath. Then he gave the command that would change history. "Engage." The battle begins. The Galactic Council's fleet was just about to reach Earth when chaos erupted. Out of nowhere, dozens of human warships emerged from the void. They moved fast, firing railguns and missile swarms before the enemy could react. The first Council warship, Varkol's Pride, took a direct hit. The hypervelocity round from a human railgun punched straight through its shields and exploded inside the hull. The ship tore apart in a massive fireball. On the flagship, Vartok's eyes widened in shock. Where did those ships come from? Zalcor shouted, but there was no time to answer. The human fleet moved with terrifying precision, striking weak points, targeting engines, and cutting off escape routes. The Council's warships tried to fire back, but the Ghost Fleet was too fast. Their stealth drives made them hard to track, and their railguns hit harder than anything the aliens had ever faced. One by one, the Council ships began to fall. The hunter becomes the hunted. Inside his burning ship, Vartok struggled to keep control. The battle had turned against him in minutes. "They were supposed to be primitive," he roared. "How are they doing this?" Zalcor's voice was panicked. "Sir, we must retreat. If we stay, we will be wiped out." Vartok hated the idea of running. The Council had ruled the galaxy for centuries. They had crushed rebellions, destroyed entire worlds. No one had ever dared to challenge them. But Earth was different. Earth had been preparing. And now, the hunters had become the hunted. "Retreat," Vartok finally shouted. "Get us out of here." The surviving Council ships turned and began to flee. But the humans did not let them escape so easily. One by one, Earth's warships hunted them down. No mercy. A damaged alien warship, the Gorshak, tried to limp away. its engines barely functioning. On board, the crew sent desperate distress signals. "Please, we surrender," their captain pleaded. General Markov listened to the transmission from his command center. He stared at the screen for a long moment. Then he gave the order. "Fire." A railgun round blasted through the Gorshek's core, destroying it instantly. Earth remembered what the Council had done. The sanctions, the blockade, the lives lost. There would be no mercy. The final blow. The battle was nearly over. Of the 20 Council warships that had entered the solar system, only 3 remained. Vartok's flagship, the Tyrant's Hand, was one of them. As the ship attempted to retreat, a human warship, Horizon 1, moved in front of it, blocking its escape. On the bridge of Horizon 1, Commander Elias smirked. "Going somewhere?" Vartok bared his teeth. "You think you can defeat the Council? You think this little victory means anything? We will return, and when we do, we will burn your world to ash." Elias's smile disappeared. He gave a single nod to his weapons officer. A high-powered railgun round struck the Tyrant's Hand, ripping it apart in a fiery explosion. Vartok and his crew were no more. The Galactic Council's fleet had been destroyed. A message to the galaxy. The news spread faster than light. Across the galaxy, alien species watched in shock as reports came in. Earth had won. A species that was supposed to be contained, weak, and under control had just annihilated one of the Council's strongest fleets. Panic spread among the Council's members. If humans were capable of this, what else were they hiding? On Earth, General Markov stood in front of a camera, broadcasting a message to the entire galaxy. His voice was calm, but his words were a warning. "Humanity will not be caged. We will not be controlled, and if you ever threaten our world again, you will not live to regret it." The message was clear. Earth was no longer a prisoner. Earth was a power to be feared, and the galaxy would never forget it. The Galactic Council was in chaos. For centuries, they had ruled the galaxy without challenge. They had crushed countless rebellions, silenced entire civilizations, and maintained their absolute power. But now, a single species, humanity, had done the impossible. They had defeated a Council fleet. Not just defeated, it was a complete annihilation. Only 3 warships had escaped, their commanders trembling with fear as they returned to the Council's homeworld. Inside the Grand Hall of the Galactic Council, the highest-ranking leaders of the galaxy gathered in panic. The High Speaker, Chalvik, slammed his fist against the table. His reptilian skin shimmered under the bright lights as he bared his sharp teeth. "This cannot be happening," he growled. "How did the humans win?" A trembling officer, one of the few survivors of the battle, stepped forward. His voice shook as he spoke. They were ready for us, High Speaker. Their ships were faster. Their weapons were devastating." Silence fell over the chamber. The Council had believed humanity to be primitive, a species that would fall into disorder once isolated. But instead of breaking, humanity had grown stronger. Finally, Varish, the head of intelligence, spoke in a low, dangerous tone. "We made a mistake," she admitted. "We underestimated them." Chalvik glared at her. "Then we must correct that mistake. We will gather our full forces and wipe them out before they become a greater threat." But Varish hesitated. She had seen the battle reports. She had studied human history, and she knew one terrible truth. If they attacked Earth again, humanity would not just fight back. They would seek revenge. Earth prepares for war. On Earth, celebrations erupted after the victory. People filled the streets, cheering and waving banners. News channels broadcast the destruction of the Council's fleet over and over again. But in the underground command center, there was no celebration. General Markov stood before his officers, a grim expression on his face. "This was just the beginning," he said. "The Council will not accept defeat. They will come back. And next time, they won't make the same mistakes." Commander Elias crossed his arms. "Let them come. We'll be ready. Markov nodded. We have to be. The Ghost Fleet had won a battle, but Earth was still vulnerable. Their fleets were outnumbered. Their technology, though powerful, was still young. And the Council had thousands of warships across the galaxy. We need more ships, Markov continued. We need better weapons. We need allies. For the first time, humanity was not just defending itself. It was preparing for war. The search for allies. The Council was feared across the galaxy, but not everyone was loyal to them. There were civilizations that had suffered under the Council's rule, planets that had been oppressed, species that had lost everything. If humanity could reach them, maybe they could form an alliance. A small team was assembled: diplomats, scientists, and warriors. Their mission was to leave the solar system and search for those willing to stand against the Council. Among them was Dr. Helen Royce, the scientist who had helped unlock the secrets of the quantum drive. Now she was about to take the first human-led diplomatic mission beyond the solar system. As she stepped onto the sleek diplomatic vessel, Starfire, she took a deep breath. We have one chance, she whispered. One chance to prove that we're not alone in this fight. The ship's engines roared to life, and with a burst of light, it vanished into the depths of space. The Council's secret weapon. Meanwhile, on the Council's homeworld, Chalvik and Varish stood inside a heavily guarded facility. Before them was Project Extinction, the Council's greatest and most dangerous weapon. A machine the size of a city, capable of wiping out entire planets in a single strike. A weapon that had only been used once before, to erase a rebellious civilization from history. Varish's eyes darkened. You're really considering this? Chalvik's voice was cold. If we do not stop them now, they will become unstoppable. Humanity must be erased. Varish hesitated. She had studied humans. She knew their rage, their tenacity. If the Council wiped out Earth, the survivors would not stop fighting. They would become legends, martyrs that would inspire rebellion across the galaxy. But Chalvik had made up his mind. He turned to the engineers. Prepare the weapon. The countdown to Earth's destruction had begun. The betrayer. As the Council prepared its superweapon, a shadow moved through the halls of their fortress. A figure in a dark cloak slipped past security, heading toward a secret communication room. Inside, they activated a stolen transmitter and sent a coded message into space. A warning. A message that would change everything. Aboard the diplomatic vessel Starfire, Dr. Helen Royce received the signal. As she read the words, her face turned pale. She turned to her crew, her voice shaking. The Council is planning something. Something terrible. The message was short, but the meaning was clear. Earth was running out of time. The race against time. Back on Earth, General Markov read the decoded message. His face remained emotionless, but inside, his mind raced. The Council has a super weapon, he said, and they're going to use it against us. The room fell into silence. For the first time, the reality of their situation became clear. The Council wasn't just coming back for revenge. They were coming back to end humanity forever. Markov straightened his back. Then we strike first. Earth's factories burned with light as new warships were built at record speed. Scientists worked around the clock to develop countermeasures. Every able-bodied person trained for war. Humanity would not wait for death. They would fight. They would survive. And they would make the Council pay. The galaxy held its breath. The Galactic Council's superweapon was almost ready. If activated, it would erase Earth from existence. No cities, no survivors, just a silent, empty planet. And humanity knew it. On Earth, the final preparations began. Warships launched from hidden bases. Satellites activated defense grids. Every scientist, soldier, and engineer worked without rest. This was no longer just a fight for survival. It was a fight for revenge. The betrayer's secret. Deep inside the Council's capital, the mysterious betrayer moved through the shadows. Their real name was Varen, a former intelligence officer who had seen too much. He had once believed in the Council's rule, but after watching them destroy entire civilizations, he knew the truth. The Council was not protecting the galaxy, it was controlling it. And now, they planned to destroy Earth. Varen had sent his warning, but it wasn't enough. He had to stop the weapon himself. Slipping past guards, he entered a restricted chamber. There, floating in a containment field, was the weapon's power core, a massive crystal pulsing with energy. The heart of the machine that would destroy Earth. Varen pulled out a small device and placed it against the containment shield. A timer began counting down. 10 minutes until detonation. If he could destroy the core, he could delay the weapon. Maybe even disable it permanently. But then, an alarm blared. Guards stormed into the room, weapons raised. Varen drew his blaster, knowing he wouldn't make it out alive. He didn't care. All that mattered was stopping the Council. The human offensive. In deep space, Earth's fleet moved in formation. Hundreds of warships, battleships, destroyers, and stealth fighters headed straight for the Council's homeworld. Inside his command ship, General Markov stared at the holographic map. The superweapon was protected by an armada of Council warships. If humanity wanted to stop it, they would have to break through. Commander Ilias's voice came over the comms. Orders, sir. Markov's eyes hardened. We end this today. The fleet accelerated. The final battle had begun. Battle over the Council's homeworld. The moment the human fleet entered orbit, chaos erupted. Massive energy beams lashed out from the Council's defenses, tearing through space. Human warships dodged and weaved, firing railguns and missile swarms. A Council dreadnought, the Eternal Wrath, launched a barrage of plasma torpedoes. A human destroyer, the Blade, took a direct hit and exploded. But for every human ship lost, 2 Council ships fell. The Ghost Fleet's stealth bombers slipped past enemy lines, targeting key weak points. Railgun rounds pierced hulls, causing massive explosions. Inside the command center of the flagship Iron Fist, Markov saw an alert. The superweapon was charging. They had minutes left. Push forward, he ordered. We need to take it now. The fleet pressed on, smashing through enemy lines. But the Council still had one last trick. The monster unleashed. From the surface of the Council's homeworld, a massive structure began to rise. A colossal warship, larger than anything humanity had ever seen, lifted into the sky. Its name, the Sovereign's Wrath. It was not just a ship, it was a mobile fortress, armed with enough firepower to destroy an entire fleet. The moment it locked onto the human warships it fired, a beam of white-hot plasma sliced through 3 human battleships, reducing them to nothing in seconds. Markov's heart pounded. If they didn't take out that ship, Earth was doomed. Elias, he said over the comms. You see it? Yeah, Elias replied. And I've got a plan. The last gamble. Commander Elias piloted his warship, Horizon 1, straight toward the Sovereign's Wrath. It was suicide. The enemy warship was too powerful, its shields too strong. But Elias had one advantage. Humans didn't fight fair. He opened a secure channel to his fleet. All ships, focus fire on its engines. Now, the fleet obeyed. Hundreds of railgun rounds, missiles, and energy blasts slammed into the warship's rear thrusters. The shields flickered. The massive ship lurched as its engines struggled. Elias grinned. Now for the fun part. He activated his ship's experimental hyperdrive cannon, a risky new technology that had never been tested in battle. With a flash of blue light, Horizon 1 launched itself at near light speed, straight into the enemy warship. The impact ripped through the hull, sending fire and debris flying. The Sovereign's Wrath trembled. Then, with a deafening explosion, it collapsed in on itself, breaking apart in a massive shockwave. The most powerful ship in the Council's fleet was gone, but so was Horizon 1. Markov clenched his fists. Elias, you did it. The battle was turning. The final strike. Back inside the Council's superweapon facility, Varen was still fighting. His device had only 30 seconds left. Wounded, barely able to stand, he smiled. He had won. As the guards closed in, he whispered to himself, "For Earth, and for every world the Council has crushed." The device detonated. A massive explosion ripped through the facility. The superweapon's power core overloaded, sending out waves of energy. The entire station collapsed in flames. Humanity had stopped the weapon. Earth was saved. The Council falls. With their fleet in ruins and their ultimate weapon destroyed, the Council's rule crumbled. Leaders who once ruled with fear now begged for mercy. But humanity did not show kindness. The same message that had echoed through Earth now spread across the galaxy. We will not be controlled. We will not be erased. And we will never forget. One by one, planets under the Council's rule rebelled. The Council's power vanished. Humanity had not just won a battle. They had changed the entire galaxy. And now, the universe belonged to them. The war was over. The Galactic Council, the once mighty rulers of the galaxy, had fallen. Their fleets were destroyed, their leaders scattered, and their strongholds reduced to rubble. But victory had come at a great cost. Commander Elias was gone, his ship sacrificed to take down the Council's most powerful warship. Countless human soldiers had given their lives in the battle. Even though Earth was saved, the fight had changed humanity forever. And now, a new challenge stood before them. What would happen next? The aftermath of war. General Markov stood on the bridge of the Iron Fist, staring at the shattered remains of the Council's capital planet below. Fires burned in the cities. The once proud symbols of the Council's power lay in ruins. Across the galaxy, news of humanity's victory spread like wildfire. Planets that had lived in fear under the Council's rule began to rise up. Revolts erupted. Former Council members begged for protection, hoping to escape the chaos. Markov turned to his officers. "We need to move fast," he said. "The galaxy is about to tear itself apart." Earth had won the war. But now they had to decide the future. Earth's choice. Back on Earth, world leaders gathered for the most important meeting in human history. Scientists, military commanders, diplomats, and politicians argued for hours. Some wanted to return home, to rebuild, to mourn the fallen, to stay out of galactic affairs. Others saw an opportunity. "We have power now," one leader said. "We can shape the future. We can create a new system, one that doesn't rule through fear, but through justice." Dr. Helen Royce, who had been part of the diplomatic mission, stepped forward. "If we leave now, the galaxy will collapse into war," she said. "We don't need to rule it, but we can guide it. We can make sure what happened to us never happens again." The room fell silent. Finally, General Markov spoke. "We didn't fight to become conquerors," he said. "But we also can't turn our backs on the people who meet us. We will not be tyrants." He looked around the room. "But we will be guardians." And so, the decision was made. Humanity would not become a new empire. But they would not disappear either. They would stand as protectors, ensuring that no species suffered under tyranny again. The age of the Galactic Council was over. The age of Earth had begun. The Galactic Accord. In the ruins of the Council's former capital, representatives from dozens of civilizations gathered. These were species who had been under the Council's control, some for centuries. They had lost homes, families, entire generations to the Council's rule, and now they wanted a new beginning. Humanity helped lead the way. A new government called the Galactic Accord was formed. A council made up of equal representatives from every major civilization. No species would rule over another. No one would hold absolute power. And at the center of it all, standing as a reminder of what had been lost and what had been won, was Earth. Not as a ruler, but as a defender. A message to the stars. Months later, in a massive ceremony, The Galactic Accord was officially declared. Millions watched as General Markov stood before the gathered leaders. His voice echoed through the Great Hall and across countless worlds through live broadcasts. The Council believed Earth was weak, he said. They thought they could control us. They thought they could erase us. He paused, looking around. But they were wrong. He turned toward the representatives of the newly formed Accord. We do not seek control. We do not seek to rule. We only seek justice, and from this day forward, no species will ever fear the shadow of tyranny again. A deep silence followed. Then, one by one, representatives stood and clapped, some using hands, some using claws, some using tentacles. Across the galaxy, people cheered. The era of oppression was over, and the age of freedom had begun. The Ghost Fleet's final mission. As peace settled over the galaxy, many of Earth's warships returned home. But not all of them. Some remained hidden, watching from the darkness. The Ghost Fleet, the secret force that had won humanity's greatest battle, was not disbanded. Because even in peace, there would always be new threats. Some of the former council leaders had disappeared, escaping into the far reaches of space. Some species resented humanity, believing they had only exchanged one ruler for another. And in the shadows, unknown dangers still lurked beyond the stars. The Ghost Fleet would not rest. Because Earth would never be caught off guard again. A new journey begins. Dr. Helen Royce stepped onto the bridge of a new diplomatic vessel, the Pathfinder. This was humanity's next step, not in war, but in exploration. With the war over, it was time to discover the galaxy, to find new allies, to build something greater than war and destruction. She smiled as the ship's engines roared to life. A new future awaited. A future without fear. A future where Earth stood strong, not as conquerors, but as guardians. As the Pathfinder jumped into hyperspace, Helen whispered the words that would be remembered for generations. We are humanity. We survive. We fight. And now, we build. And with that, Earth's journey into the stars truly began.